For the third session online discussion, there were a few things that I wanted to talk about that I found pretty interesting during this week's lectures, and they're confirmation bias, negativity bias, and then also the study about Facebook that we talked about, and I think it was 3.5. So first, I want to start with confirmation bias, which is the idea that people process information by interpreting it with pre-existing beliefs and knowledge that they already have. So basically, they learn something new, and the way that they learn it relates to what they already know, whether that's good or bad to whomever may think that. This also means that people with different backgrounds are going to process and interpret information like very differently due to what they already believe and what they were already living in, the environment that they come from. And a story that I have to share about this is I just recently moved into a house with 4 new roommates who I did not live with last year, and I knew about because I played on the team with them, but I didn't know much about their background or things that they knew and the information that they had. And when I started living with my new roommates, began to realize that we all grew up in very different households and areas, and we interpret new information and even new ideas very differently because of how we lived and where we lived. If there's something about, we're just talking about something we saw on TV, we might all think of it way differently, even though it's the same information that was given to us because of what we already have belief-wise, what we pre-existed in the last 20 years of our lives, what we've already learned and what we know to be what is right for us. And an example of confirmation bias that I've kind of come up with and seen with relation to baseball is that there's this idea that lefty pitchers in baseball are quirky and goofy and other positions aren't. And this may lead to people who, meet a new teammate for the first time and they say, oh, hey, I'm a lefty pitcher. And you're like, wow, you must be quirky and goofy because all the rest are. And that might not be what they really are. They might be a really, outgoing and non-quirky, non-goofy person. And it's just the idea that we have and the pre-existing belief and stereotype that we have behind lefty pitchers that makes us think that they are what they are, even though that might not be who they really are. And this is not a proven idea, and it honestly has no truth behind it, and it has no facts to back it up. But it's an understanding. It's understood in the community of baseball that lefty pitchers are just kind of weird. Next thing I wanted to talk about was negativity bias. We as individuals tend to focus on the negative things in life rather than the positives. You can think about this in a situation like you do bad on a test and you let that take over your whole week, month, day, whatever it may be, even though you might have done positive things in that time span. I mean, say you had a great day, you woke up early, you got all your stuff done, you studied for the test, you did everything right, you go take that test and you failed. Now because you failed that test, you feel like you did everything wrong, and you focus on the negative things rather than focusing on the positive of, I did what I needed to do and I just didn't get the grade I wanted to, and that's okay. You just need to work harder next time and figure it out from there. And negativity bias is something I think a lot of people, relate with, because we all go through stuff in our lives that's just not fair or not easy or not fun, and we tend to allow that to overwhelm our emotions and not let us focus on the good stuff in life. Say you had a good game, but you failed the test. You might not think about the game as much because you failed the test earlier. And it's kind of like this push and pull situation where a lot of people pull too much towards the negative and don't push towards and past the negative and towards the positive, because there's going to be negative stuff in your life at all times. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the Facebook study that we talked about in 3.5 as well. And it talked about how people tended to be less informed on politics when they were leaving Facebook, but also more involved at the same time, which was a little weird to me. I don't know if it was a good thing that people are more involved and less informed at the same time. It just seemed a bit interesting, and it made me think about, when people are like, I'm going to get off of TikTok or Instagram for a month. Does that mean that taking the break from social media is a good thing or a bad thing? Are they more involved still, even though they're not on the app? So I feel like a lot of the stuff that we talked about in this week's lectures were very, insightful and helpful. And these were a few things that I wanted to focus on with confirmation bias, negativity bias, and the Facebook study, because there were things that stood out to me, and specifically stuff that I put into my notes. And especially confirmation bias and negativity bias, because I think in this world of AI and technology, these are big, but they're not just based on, AI or the computer. They're more humane and stuff that we go through every day. And I think it's interesting that we're learning about AI and how AI really doesn't have much emotion behind it, but we learn still about the human effect that we have, because the way that humans work has to work with AI in order to, become better and better as we move on. So I'm excited to learn more about this, but these were just three things that I thought were interesting and I wanted to talk about.